Many people ask why America surpassed Europe and became a global superpower. The main reason can be traced back to 5 men known as the Founding Fathers of America. They were instrumental in propelling the economy and industry of America to new heights, ultimately leading to its superpower status. When we look at the billionaires of today, we see that most of them have accumulated their wealth through technology, such as Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. However, if we want to identify the wealthiest business person in history, we need to go back more than 100 years. We need to look at a wealthy individual who, despite passing away around a century ago, still remains unmatched by any contemporary capitalist. This is the story of the Standard Oil Company, which was not an ordinary company but rather had the largest monopoly in the world. Standard Oil did not always possess such immense power. It gradually acquired it over time. Let's go back to 1839 when a boy was born in New York, and his name was John. John D. Rockefeller was the eldest son of William Rockefeller, who owned an apothecary in Richford, New York. John's father had multiple wives and children with each of them. However, after a while, he abandoned all of his wives, including John's mother, and took all the children to live with a woman named Nancy Brown, forming an unconventional family. Whenever John asked his father for money, his father would say he didn't have any. But John wanted to have his own money, so he would work for the neighbors and earn some cash. When John turned 15, his father decided to relocate the family to Cleveland, Ohio. Since John had a taste for money, he didn't like going to school and believed it would waste his time. That's why he dropped out of school at the age of 16 and started looking for work. His first job was as a clerk in a small office, earning a meager salary of 50 cents per day, which would be approximately $14 in today's rate. He worked there for 2 years, and despite outperforming adults, he didn't get a raise because he was still considered a child. He worked there until the age of 18, and then he declared that he would no longer work for others. He used the money he had saved, took a loan, and opened his own office. Entrepreneurship was in his blood from a young age, as he knew how to make money even at a young age. He would buy products from farmers and sell them to stores. In 1857, at the age of 18, through these transactions, he made sales of $500,000, of which approximately $50,000 could be considered profit. In Cleveland, Ohio, everyone knew John, an 18-year-old kid who excelled in business, and everyone acknowledged his abilities. 1 year after these events, in 1859, the first oil well in America was discovered near John D. Rockefeller's office. Oil was found, but it didn't have much value at the time because there were no machines, and this oil was not very useful. The best use they had for oil at that time was to convert it into kerosene and use it in lamps for lighting. John became interested in the oil well that was discovered near his office and wanted to know what could be done with this oil. He gathered and read all the news and writings about oil, and John concluded that oil itself didn't have much value. The valuable thing was the products that could be obtained from it. At that time, the valuable product was white oil. After that, well, many oil wells were discovered in America, and all of their owners were ordinary people. Rockefeller looked at the owners of these wells and saw that they were not doing well. He thought of buying oil from them for a low price and turning it into white oil. The largest oil discovery in America at that time was in Pennsylvania. In 1863, a railway line was built between the oil wells of Pennsylvania and Cleveland, Ohio, which made it possible to bring abundant oil to Ohio. John D. Rockefeller, who was very business savvy, said, "Now is the time to build a refinery in Cleveland, considering this railway line and the abundance of oil." He had earned enough money in the past 6 years to build an acceptable refinery. He understood that playing with oil was like alchemy, and he could build everything from nothing. For this reason, he hired the best chemists in the region and told them to produce the highest quality white oil. He started with $8,000. Approximately 2 years later, in 1865, they valued the refinery and its equipment at around $72,500, which, if calculated at today's rate, would be more than $180,000. But this was just the beginning. Rockefeller knew he was starting his empire because no one had thought of these ideas before. Until that time, 26 refineries had been built in Ohio, but all of them produced low-quality white oil, while Rockefeller's white oil had such quality that customers only wanted his product. The sale of those refineries was in trouble. Rockefeller, who was highly intelligent, realized that he could buy these refineries for free. John's method of buying was very interesting. He invited the owners of the refineries one by one, showed them the accounting and income of his refinery, and said, "Look at how much profit we have made, while you have made no profit. If you sell your refinery to us, we will flourish your refinery, and we will also hire you as one of the managers. And we will give you a good salary that is higher than the income of your refinery." The owners of refineries one by one came to Rockefeller and said, "We are willing." 10 years passed, and we reached the year 1880, when 90% of America's refinery production was in Rockefeller's hands. Here, a monopoly had emerged, the largest monopoly in world history at that time. This monopoly had made him so wealthy that he was buying up most of the railroads in America. He would tell the railroad company, "I will pay more than anyone else for transportation, and you will only carry my goods." With this action, he raised the transportation rates with the railroad, and other factories started complaining, saying, "How do we transport our products then?" The factories protested so much that the U.S. government got involved. When the U.S. government got involved, they saw that there was a monopoly. They saw that in this way, the owner of a monopoly could do whatever he pleased, and the U.S. Congress worked to pass laws against monopolies. But John was ahead of the U.S. government. When he realized that the U.S. government wanted to pass anti-monopoly laws, he opened a trust in New Jersey. Trust means that the Standard Oil Company transformed itself into 40 different companies, ultimately benefiting Rockefeller himself. But this was not considered a monopoly according to the anti-monopoly law, because there were 40 different companies that were competing with each other. In 1890, John D. Rockefeller owned 20,000 oil wells and laid 6,500 kilometers of oil pipelines in America, with over 100,000 Americans working for the Standard Oil Company under Rockefeller's ownership. Rockefeller established his empire at the right time because no other oil wells had been discovered in the world yet. But as we entered the 20th century, oil became more valuable, ships and automobiles were advancing, and in various parts of the world, people were searching for oil. In other parts of the world, in Russia and Asia, they had already found oil. But the first major oil well in the world was discovered on May 26, 1908, in Iran. It was discovered by William Knox Darcy, an Englishman who had obtained the oil extraction rights from the Qajar government. Now let's go back to Rockefeller in 1890, when oil became more and more precious every day, and different wells were being discovered all over the world. Rockefeller's income was declining, but Standard Oil, Rockefeller's company, was not a company that could easily be harmed. In 1890, Standard Oil was worth $1 trillion in today's currency. Rockefeller had gained so much power in America that he wasn't worried about oil being discovered elsewhere or having competitors. He had so much money that he was lending it to the U.S. government. He continued to grow his wealth until the end of his life. When John D. Rockefeller passed away in 1937, his fortune was estimated to be over $400 billion, earning him the title of the richest businessman in the world at that time. Currently, according to the statistics from Forbes magazine, Elon Musk is the richest person in the world with an estimated wealth of over $219 billion.